So I looked into it and we actually did fork enchant. So maybe the issue is with enchant as well. We have an enchant 2 ebuild. Let me show you the history on this. I'm going to go into kit fixups and I'm going to type git log dot to get the log just in the enchant directory. And we can look at the history here. We had an issue where some things couldn't find enchant. So I created that symlink from enchant-2 to regular enchant. But I didn't create a symlink for the include directory. And then Oleg corrected the symlink install that I did. I think I had an error in it. So what I started to wonder is, what is the standard for enchant? Is the standard for package config for other packages to look for enchant or enchant-2.pc? So I went over and looked at the Debian libenchant dev package, their experimental build, just to see what they're doing. And I looked at the AMD 64 build, and sure enough, their enchant.pc file, even though it's for enchant 2, doesn't have a -2. So it seems that some packages are looking for enchant-2.pc and other ones are just looking for enchant.pc. And then I wanted to look a little bit deeper. So I looked at the enchant source code on GitHub. It was originally made by the ebuild project. And I went over to their releases. And what I was just wanting to see is, was there a huge change at version 2 where like enchant 2 is like totally different from the original enchant, and so they should be treated as two separate things? Because often that happens with certain packages, and then you have like the legacy version of the package and then the new version that has the same name but above a certain version. It's really a totally different thing. And they did mention, so I read through their release notes for 2.0 just to see if that's where there was a big change, and they did say it's a major new release. They added new functionality, they removed some things, they tidied up library APIs. C clients should only need to make trivial changes. C++ might need to make more changes. Provider API has been simplified and tweaked. Okay, so there's been pretty significant changes at 2.0, but was this like a night and day change? And I think in my research, so I think I saw that in enchant 2.2 also had some breaking changes. So let's see if I can find those release notes. I might have just found them online somewhere, and I don't know if I can find them for you now when I was Googling. Okay, we did have a bug open for it actually. So enchant 2.2 is a pretty major change that's ABI incompatible. Okay, and it is the one installing the enchant 2 package config file. So what that means based on this information is that I think if an ebuild is looking for the enchant-2 configuration file, it wants 2.2 or above, because that's really the new enchant. And if it's looking for enchant.pc, then it's wanting the older one. So it looks like the better fix for this is really to call enchant 2.2 and up enchant-2. Like, that's the developer convention. And then anything below that is going to look for enchant.pc. So actually, we don't really want to do the change that we're talking about. We probably want to fix the enchant ebuilds. So probably I should look at fixing those. So I think this is a really good example of how the devil is often in the details. So, you know, Mark originally posted that what he called like a stupid workaround. And then I looked more in depth and I looked at a more in-depth workaround of how to fix it. But then we actually had to look at the lib-enchant ebuilds themselves and whether lib-enchant is set up properly and what are the developer assumptions for packages that are written depending on enchant. And what we found out is actually that enchant, our assumptions were false. So that enchant 2.2 is really this breaking point where they refer to it as enchant-2 for the package config file. And below that, that is enchant. So I think that prior changes maybe were not correct. So let's get back to pan, because that's where we started. Let's find that bug. FL6380. So this is an issue here where what's happening is enchant 2.2.1 is getting pulled in. And based on our deep understanding of enchant now, we know that 2.2.1 has a very different API. So your code may work, but it may not. So really, the code that is in pan probably is doing the right thing. It's looking for enchant, but it wants to use a version below 2.2. Because above 2.2, it's not going to find the package config file. We don't want it to find that one. So we actually could modify pan so it builds against 2.2.1 because it did work. So we could do that. But it seems like we also need some fixes to the enchant ebuilds too. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some further fixes to the enchant ebuilds to slot them so that they can coexist. And then something can depend on either of them and they can be even installed alongside each other. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. As far as fixing pan, let's take a look at how we would make this work with enchant 2.2.1. So if I go into the source code directory, we'll see that in configure.ac, it is looking for the classic enchant API right here. Now, if we wanted it to target the new API, we would aim it at the new package config file. So we would just change it to look for enchant-2. And then there is an enchant required version, and this could stay the same, but we could also upgrade it to, we need at least 2.2, because that's where the new API is starting to work. And now we can test this by just doing an auto reconf. That will generate a new configure script. And then if we do a configure with GTK spell and with GTK3, I think is the option. Let's see if it works on that or not. So, yep. So it's picking up the new GTK spell. And then if I do a grep for enchant, I want to see if it's picking up. It's picking up the correct directory there, and that's coming from the enchant2 package config file. And then if I make, use -J for speed, see how it goes. Last time I tested this, it did build. And there it goes. Let's see if that was just a parallel build failure. We have to fix the enchant directory. So we can do the symlink workaround, but since we're building against 2.2 and up, it's really going to be in its own separate directory so they can be installed side by side. So we're going to edit that file. So I'm going to go over here. Oops, that's not where I want to modify. It's still called enchant.h, but it's in an enchant2 directory. And now I'll type make. See if it gets any further. Cool, so it built. So if we wanted to make that change in the pan ebuild, what I would do is I would create a patch. First, I would change this to require above 2.2, or I will eventually have a slot for enchant. So I could just do enchant and have it depend on enchant slot 2.2. Or slot 2 if I choose to use slot 2. And then I don't need that. I just do a slot-based dependency. So what I would do here is in source prepare, I would do an apply files dir my patch.patch, and then I do an auto reconf here, and I believe these are in EAPI 7, or I might need eutils, or let's see, there might be like an autoconf tools. I forget where auto reconf lives, but that's your basic setup. Let me show you how I would prepare this patch. So first I would just use the regular ebuild that I have, and as root I would do a clean, and then I would do a unpack. Okay, I don't have EAPI 7 supported. Let me switch it back to EAPI 6. So let me do this. Clean unpack. I would go into the pan directory, into work, and there's my source code directory. But what I would do is I would do a copy -a, and I would make a copy called fixed. And then I'd go into the fixed version and I would apply my patches. So we'll modify configure.ac. We'll look for enchant. We'll make it 220 here. We'll make it looking for the enchant2.pc file over here. And then the other change we had to do was, let's just grep for it. We can look for enchant.h. It's that file. So we'll edit it. Group prefs, dialog, cc, and we're going to just change its path. So now it's set up for enchant 2.2. So that's all the change we're going to do. And then we go back to our work directory and we're going to do a diff dash capital lowercase UR capital N pan. That's the original directory. And then we're going to compare it to fixed. That's going to spit out a patch. I'm going to redirect this to var temp. And we're going to call this enchant 2.2.patch. Voila, we have a patch. Now we're going to go back to our pan ebuild. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to GNOME Kit. And I'm going to edit I'm going to create a files directory. And I'm going to copy my patch I created into the files directory. So the patch is sitting there waiting for me to use it. And now I will modify the ebuild. And what I'm going to do in source prepares, where you want to apply patches, we're going to do an eapply, and we're going to map it to filesdir enchant 2.2.patch. And let's see how that works. Also, a note. So whenever you're doing just a build fix, then you don't need to bump the rev. But if you're doing any kind of fix that's going to modify the files that are installed for the user, you want to bump the revision. So in this case, it's sort of, you could choose to do it or not do it, because for most users, there's not going to be really a difference in pan. It's really a build fix. So we could not do a rev bump. But, you know, maybe we could, because it sort of depends on if a user is building against an old one. Probably it's fine. So what we're going to do here is then, let's see if my thing worked. Now I'm going to do a clean and prepare, and it's going to try to apply that patch. The patch should be good, but let's see if my ebuild is good, or if I have everything I need. It's unpacking. It didn't like it because I did not call eapply user, or the default function in source prepare. So now it applied the patch. So that's how you can create patches for ebuilds. It's very useful to use this method. And remember, you just create two source directories inside work, and then after you're done modifying the one that's fixed, you do a diff-urn. So this new pan should work against the new enchant. And as far as enchant fixes, what I want to do is what Oleg mentioned in, let's see if I can find this bug. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's not that one. Okay. Let me look for pan. I might have it open here. Yeah, so we really want to have enchant 2.2 and above install enchant-2.pc and not install enchant.pc. And then anything below that is going to install enchant.pc. And that's how we're going to break it. We're going to break it at 2.2. So I have these ebuilds to do, and I have to slot them. And maybe that will be the subject of a upcoming YouTube video. We'll see. But hopefully that gave you some insight into how to tweak ebuilds, and also how to research issues and figure out what the correct fix is, because that is a big part of really ebuild maintenance. It's doing that research, understanding the libraries, understanding how the source code is trying to use the libraries, figuring out, is the library doing something wrong? Is the source code doing something wrong? Is our dependency wrong? And then going from there and applying the right solution. So I hope you found this useful, and we'll see you soon. Bye.